The Woburn School Committee meeting for October 13th, 2020. Could we all please salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chairman and members in the room tonight, please ask for a moment of silence for Mr. Paul Funk, former school employee who passed away recently. Mr. Funk, rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan.
Madam Chair,
Right, yeah. And
Okay.
the other one is a vice principal.
So we're going to just take a couple minutes. I'll just do the warning that this meeting is being recorded and being live streamed on YouTube. And due to the constraints on in-person gatherings, we still are not having anybody in the audience, but I do see Counselor Concanon in the audience. And Ms. Cormier has returned, so could the superintendent please call the roll?
Ms. Chisholm.
Yes.
Ms. Cormier.
Yes.
Mr. Lipset.
yes.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Mulrennan.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Here.
Ms. Crowley.
Present. All right, so I see on the agenda the approval of records for 9/9/20. Any action?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve on the floor and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 7-0. Those minutes will be published. I see approval records of 9/23/20. Any action on that?
Same action, Madam Chair.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Citizen participation, again, due to the constraints of our in-person gathering, I asked people to sign up ahead of time to speak to the school committee, and I did not get any requests. I did get a couple of emails, which I believe I forwarded to you, and I will reference in the correspondence. City Council Liaison, Councilor Concanon. Would you like to? No, nothing? Okay, well, it's nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Okay, moving swiftly. Actually, let's do the art. So, one thing that the school committee does is it hangs beautiful art from our students in the school committee room, and I wanted to honor those students that have their art here. So we have number 1 is Brooke Lynch. Number
That's number
1 is here.
11 is here.
That's 1?
Yeah.
Okay. That one is Brooke Lynch.
Number 2. That's all.
Back there, too, by Mike.
Number 2 is Allison McElhenney.
That's over here.
That's right there. That's number 2.
That's number 2.
Yep.
Number 3 is
Right here.
Okay, that's
number
kind of,
3
I think it's going close.
is Jordan Montato. Number 4 is Megan Brown. Number 5 is Stephanie Garcia. Number 6 is Catalina Coakley. Number 7 is Liana Bazzarella. Number 8 is Caroline Bassett da Silva. Number 9 is Chris Childress. Number 10 is Salma El Dali. Number 11 is Valerie Ratch. And number 12 is Alexis Rodriguez. So thank you.
Number 12 is over here.
Down that way.
Oh, down there.
Yes.
Great. Beautiful artwork. Thank you for those students who makes this room so much more cheerier.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to reports and presentation of superintendent and staff. First up, we have the City of Woburn COVID-19 situation. Dr. Crowley?
Sure. On behalf of the city, as it relates to the schools, let's see, we're beginning our 4th week of school in the Woburn Public Schools. So it's been a great amount of teamwork between everybody in the city, whether it's school committee, city council, the Board of Health, school nurses, the teachers, the staff, everybody that's made it all possible. So I'm really, really, again, pleased that we're operating in the hybrid model because it does allow for some in-person learning to occur. As it relates to the COVID-19 situation in the city of Woburn, I sent out correspondence today that over the weekend, 3 students in the Woburn Public Schools had tested positive, but none were infectious while at school. In the city, between September 27th and October 3rd, during that week, there were 30 cases in the city, and between October 4th and October 10th, there were 33 cases in the city. So there are 63 cases in the city over that 2-week period. What that means in the city of Woburn is that tomorrow, when the metric is again released, the city is up 10. So as a city, we'll remain in the red. That said, from October 10th to tonight, there's only been one new case reported. So, and how do I know all this? And let me just explain the process a little bit. We have a daily dialogue between the school department and the Board of Health to make sure that we are tracking every morning any student or family that is either a positive or a close contact or needs to be quarantined. On Sundays, or in fact yesterday, the Board of Health and the school department, the nurses work to ensure that as positive cases come into the city, the school department is alerted, and then the message goes out to the school nurses and to the principals to ensure that students that may be tested positive or considered close contact are alerted so that they are quarantined and we're keeping our schools safe. And so as of right now, there have been no staff that have tested positive in the Woburn Public Schools. But again, everything changes day by day, and we're trying to be transparent with the community as to the extent practicable, and communicating to families and staff who may be affected as the data emerges. And so, again, we have these daily meetings and then working on the weekends so that on Monday or whatever day we open, we have that information. So again, over this 2-week period that ends tomorrow, the state comes out Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and we're up 10 as a city. So hopefully that trend decreases so that we can maintain the schools providing the hybrid education to all of our kids. Any questions on the city data?
Mr. Lipset.
Change your data.
There he goes.
So I know there's been discussion in the community and some confusion regarding DESI guidance surrounding the governor's map and how many weeks in a certain category we would need to be to make changes. Could you speak a little bit about the decision-making process, to what degree we are beholden to that guidance, to what degree we have autonomy?
Yeah. So it's really DESI guidance that's asking us to look at multiple weeks worth of data. They suggest at least 3 weeks, but they also suggest that you look to see if there's clusters that may trigger a city to go from, say, green to red overnight. So, for example, if there's an assisted living facility that would have no impact on schools, schools could still maintain their current status. And so that's the type of guidance we're looking at. As a city, the Board of Health and Mayor Galvin seem to know where every single person lives. And so there are no clusters right now in the city. It's kind of spread out. There are families that, families of 2, 3, 5. So again, those, make the numbers escalate to some extent. I can tell you that as a school system, should we see a cluster in a school, we'll react very quickly.
Ms. Cormier.
A question about the 3 that tested positive, without obviously giving any personal information. How do we know that they weren't infectious while at school?
So you go back 48 hours from the time that the test comes in. And so they were cohort A. They were last in school on Tuesday. And they tested on, I believe, Saturday or Sunday. The results came
And they
back.
tested because they were symptomatic?
I think they're
Asymptomatic.
in a household in
Okay.
which a family member
Yes.
may have been sick, is the way that I,
Okay, I'm just trying to, because they could have been positive prior, I mean, unless we had a previous test that showed that they had been negative. I don't know how we know without symptoms. Are they currently symptomatic?
No, they're
Still not.
asymptomatic.
And still nothing. So we wouldn't actually know when they contracted the virus.
Correct.
right.
So we wouldn't necessarily know when they were contagious.
Yeah, it's like anything that you'd walk
But I think
around
the
with.
superintendent is following the guidelines of the health
No, I-
experts, yeah.
It's the Board of Health
It's the
guide.
Board of Health 48-hour look back is what we're reacting to.
Oh,
So it's obviously impossible to know if someone's asymptomatic if they're symptomatic, right?
or
So,
contagious,
Conta- you know,
No, yeah,
like, so-
absolutely.
But I think I do want to commend the Board of Health and Mary Heater and all the nurses because they've done a lot of work to, and the principals to do the contact tracing to make sure that people are quarantined appropriately or given notifications.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Let's see, Mr. Mulrennan.
Along those same lines, Dr. Crowley, I know last week we received a call from the Board of Health personnel regarding the situation here in the city of Woburn. Perhaps this would be a good opportunity for yourself to remind the students and families at home about the guidelines and precautions and steps and practices that we as a school district are looking for from families, at least while we have somewhat of an audience tonight.
Sure. I think one of the reasons, optimistically, that we haven't seen anything in the schools is that we're all wearing masks. We're keeping social distance at 6 feet. We're washing our hands and taking all mitigation strategies seriously. And so if those strategies are then taken seriously outside of school, that would be most helpful to us remaining open.
Thank you for that reminder. I think that's important right about now.
The other thing, just to commend we do have families calling in when they're not feeling well and being proactive, and we want to encourage that as well. So that's, it's not a time to have a student that's not feeling well come to school. So continue to communicate proactively with the schools when students aren't feeling well. That's been very helpful as well.
And even students with minor symptoms, parents are keeping them home, and they're allowed to sign on and still do their work with their remote side of the hybrid teacher.
So there's no fear of education loss.
Correct.
And
It'll
that
be
could
available.
be a driving force.
Obviously, if a child is ill, we don't want them logging
Right.
on, but if they're home because they might have a mild symptom and they're able to attend, we encourage them to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Dr. Wells?
Yeah, just going back about the DESI guidance, that is guidance, not a directive. So I assume that means the superintendent is in consultation with the mayor and the Board of Health. Even if we're 3 weeks, 4 weeks red, you could look at the situation and still decide that we're good to stay open.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That's.
Yep.
Again, I think the data will tell
Right.
us what to do. It's hard to predict,
Yep.
but yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just some other updates as it relates to the school reopening. I just want to assure the committee and everybody we're keeping up with the PPE supply in all of our schools and making sure all the protocols are followed when staff and students are coming into the buildings. All of our systems have been are frequently monitored, meaning the HVAC systems. Mr. Dunkley's been doing a great job providing updates accordingly. An update as it relates to the food service. The FDA has approved free breakfast and lunch for the entire year for all of our students in the Woburn Public Schools. And so that's a great thing for all of our kids so that we can ensure that they all have the food that they need. Our transportation has been going well. It's no easy feat to transport students when they have to be in certain seats and wearing assigned lanyards. But the partnership with North Suburban has been terrific, and they've been very responsive to any sort of tweaks that we've had to make. Part of it is the complexity. Instead of running the same route every day, which they do, the numbers vary. So Mondays and Tuesdays, you may have more students than Thursdays and Fridays. And so we've had to figure out the times at which the buses will arrive. So there's all those kinds of variables that we've been able to navigate. Today we received about 1,000 Chromebooks, and so Ms. Judkins and her technology staff are putting those together, getting asset tagged and names on them for distribution early next week. We still do have some Chromebooks that have been back ordered. Again, this is a global supply chain issue. We're doing our best to get everything that we need to provide the services to our students. All of the schools look great. I know that's sort of a nice thing to say. There was picture days at all the schools now, so we've been out and visited the schools. Students in the classes are learning. They're enjoying recess. Students are wearing masks. We've had no issues whatsoever with any of those types of issues. The high school athletics has been going. This past weekend, they had games on Saturday against Arlington and then yesterday against Reading. And how they're doing it is they're doing back-to-back weeks against the same town. So they'll play this Saturday against Reading again. And it's only within the Middlesex League, as Mr. Duran outlined earlier. But so far, that's been going well. We've maintained a 50-person capacity at the events, just again out of an abundance of caution. And I know that the media center has been streaming some of the games, so that's allowed access to people. Clubs and activities at the high school are beginning to get going virtually. So, and I say that because one of the activities that's coming up is the high school election for school committee representative. And so that hasn't happened yet, but that will happen. So there'll be a school committee representative soon from the high school who can do a much better job telling you about what's going on at the high school than I can. And so that's, the business of schools is ongoing. And lastly, and I think the personnel subcommittee will talk a lot to it, but, there's been a lot of moving parts to get to this point. And so we do have some staffing complexities, and which relates. I'm thinking that the personnel subcommittee will give you the numbers, but dozens and dozens of staffing changes have occurred since the beginning of the school year, and we don't have an abundance of subs, so we're trying to do our best, having staff provide basically asynchronous work, or like a sub pack, a virtual sub folder. We haven't had many of that situation, but just trying to think forward about how that would look. So with that, I guess I will take questions or.
Dr. Wells?
Yeah, with regard to the student rep, just in light of the situation, I wonder if we could do something where they could appear virtually on a computer and do it rather than coming to the building. I just think, especially with children, and they're going to be going to their cohort and so forth, to minimize any risk that we may present to them.
Dr. Wells, thank you. I was thinking that we would definitely open it up to virtual academy students, obviously.
Right.
So if it was a virtual academy student, that the student could make a report.
But I'm thinking we should maybe just do this for the student rep for foreseeable future,
Right.
whether they give a written report, or if we can do something virtually where they could just, we could hook up the computer and stream it just for 15 minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Wells.
And then I just had a question about, I was just looking at the sheet, I don't know if the sheet on positions and billings, is that for now or for later?
We do have the personnel.
Oh, okay, all right, then I'll wait for that. Okay,
Look forward to it.
okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Yes. Mr. Lipset and then Ms. Cormier.
Just one regarding masking in schools. Do we have any numbers? Do we have any sense of have there been any disciplinary issues to this point with masking?
It has not been a concern.
No.
Awesome. That's great.
Well, that says a lot about the implementation and the way in which things are being implemented, I think. Ms. Cormier?
For the USDA, you said through the end of the year, calendar year?
No, for
No,
the school year.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
all the way through June.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, thank you for asking, yeah.
I can skip that in finance now. It's nice jotting my notes.
One
Dr.
last
Wells?
question, and it may not be
You're
appropriate
next.
for this time, but, in terms of if we have to go to fully remote,
Mhm.
obviously, people have given it thought and how it's going to be, but I assume it may be slightly different with, I don't know, maybe there won't be with cohorts. Will students be doing 5 days of fully remote, things like that? I don't know, maybe, I don't know whether it's worth it to give a presentation at some point, or maybe just cross our fingers, but,
We're praying hard.
yeah.
Well-
So maybe it might be useful to give a presentation maybe at the next meeting, just so people are aware, if we have to go remote, here's what it would look like, because I'm sure it's going to be different than just everybody staying in the same cohorts and all the things staying the same. It's just their way.
So I can answer that
Yeah.
to some extent, and happy to present.
Yeah.
So
I leave it up to the administration to think whether it's worthwhile, but
Yeah.
just give us an overview, and that probably.
I mean, the quick answer is students would not be cohorted. They would all be together. So
Mhm.
tomorrow, for example, Wednesdays is a remote day, so
Right.
the whole class is together tomorrow.
Mhm.
That's what it would be like if we went full
Okay.
remote. And so I've termed them pivot plans. So
Okay.
elementary, middle, and high school all have pivot plans that have been
Okay.
shared with the
Okay.
stakeholders. So.
So through the chair, I'm not sure whether, just to give people an idea what to expect so that, they can do at least a little foreseeable planning in case things change at home, because right now they're expecting their child, a lot of them, to be at school for 2 days, but that wouldn't be the case necessarily if we all go remote. And so maybe just a letter, just a brief outline potentially of what, would be, I don't know. Again, I hate to do this, but just to give parents a kind of a warning about if we have to go.
I think that there's been that warning sent.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
2 weeks ago, the principals updated
Okay.
their pivot plans and
Sent it?
resent them,
Okay,
thank you,
good.
to families so that they would understand the pivot plan. It's now attached to their building plans.
Okay.
Maybe because I got it, and Mr. Lipsy got it, maybe share that with the school
And
committee.
I think, so
Yeah.
we can share that with you, and I think respectfully, Dr. Wells, it's hard to know when this may be implemented
Right.
too, so,
But as long as the parents have it, and I think you've
Mhm.
done due diligence, so I'm
Yeah.
fine. I didn't receive
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I think you've done what needed to be done.
We can also discuss it in our subcommittee,
Yep.
and it can get pushed up
Okay.
from there, too.
I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for anyone in the community who might be interested. Are these available publicly right now? Or is it just something that's been shared with school stakeholders?
I
I
believe,
don't know that they're on the website
Okay.
yet, but if they're not, they will be.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs.
I
Chisholm?
believe they are.
So if we went remote, which would mean we'd have clusters or an outbreak, would that also shut down the boys' club and the YMCA?
Yeah, so the answer to that is maybe. It depends on who does the shutdown. If we, it's possible that the schools are shut down, but they're still active. If it's a citywide thing, obviously they will be closed. We did working out a contingency agreement with the club and with the YMCA so that in the event of a shutdown that there'll be some assistance to keep them financially able to stand. But there's been no agreement that if we close, they must. It's going to all depend on the situation.
Because just worried about parents that, depending
Yeah.
upon them, certain days.
The only
Right.
thing is, Ms. Chisholm, is that, so if we did close down, our kids who are at the YMCA who are receiving services, say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, still will not be able to access on Monday, Tuesday, because the other students will still be there. So
Right.
those families will still have to work out 2 or 3 days a week, depending on which site they're at
Right.
and which week it is.
But at least they'd get some
Yeah.
relief.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
Hope these plans just go on the shelf one day.
yes, locked away.
Someday there'll be an easy.
Time capsule,
Some of the
buried.
superintendent.
Thank you.
Okay.
So as for substitute teachers, so we're actively recruiting them. Crowley?
Yeah, if people are, yes, the answer is yes. We have ads up on SchoolSpring. Schoolspring.com is how to apply.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for Dr. Crowley on updates on school reopening? All right. Supervised learning centers.
Just a brief update. Between the two sites, we're providing services for about 240 children. We are still taking in new enrollments. There were 2 new students at the Boys Club today who were introduced. I was there today. Now that these sites have been running for a month at the YMCA and now 3 weeks at the Boys and Girls Club, the issues are not really the logistical issues that we had when we first opened. Now they're turning to professional development for their staff so that they can help our kids be in remote learning. So Thursday, all the teachers, the class supervisors at the YMCA and at the Boys and Girls Club will be doing professional development with Aaron Dean at 4 o'clock so that they can, learn how to best access the remote platforms, where to click, what to look for. And the focus is really on making sure that when the kids are there, they're doing the schoolwork that they're supposed to do. Obviously, I think everybody knows that these 2 sites are a big hit. There's a lot of really happy people with what's going on there. Any of you are invited to visit. If you'd like to see what it looks like, I'd be glad to meet you at either site to take you for a tour. I will tell you that on Mondays and Tuesdays, the crowd at the Boys and Girls Club is not as big as Thursday, Friday. Like today, there was between 40 and 50 students there, but on Thursday, there'll be over 100 students there. The YMCA is full on both sides, though. So if anyone's interested, let me know, and I'll be glad to take you around. It's a quick walkthrough, but you can see what it looks like when you transform a recreational place into a school, because that's what it looks like. So it's really neat. If anyone's interested, just shoot me an email and I'll take you around. If anybody has any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions on supervised learning centers? Thank you for that quick update. Appreciate it. And next we have updates on virtual academy and Edgenuity.
And once that warms up, we'll have our little slideshow. Just as a sort of anecdote, I think things are going well. We've had some very positive feedback from families across the levels, which is nice.
Okay, so looks like we're getting a virtual academy update first.
Yep.
Great.
Right? So here's an elementary sort of a day in the life of, and you can see what a student will do, starting with morning meeting. They're pulled together. They do some reading live, and then there's individual groups that students break out to. There's a tech break, and we do encourage students to actually take the tech break and not play video games during that time, because that's been overheard by some teachers. So, we do encourage kids to really step away from the laptop for a little while. There's science. They do have specials for a 45-minute block that's available to them. Again, you can see the tech and snack breaks that are in there. Math, small group to work with whatever the lesson was for math. A lunch break, and then writing and independent work. The independent work time allows for our staff to collaborate, to have meetings, to participate in meetings that might be IEP or 504 meetings, and do other work along those lines that don't all fit into Wednesday. The lunch piece, and I know this question has come up through an email that I was aware of, but also Mr. Lipsett brought to my attention a different situation. While we do encourage folks to take lunch at their lunchtime and be part of the classroom, if, say, picking up lunch, or because you might have an elementary student and a middle school student and you want them to eat at the same time, we encourage parents to just send a message to the teacher, not necessarily live during class, but send an email saying that during this time, my child's going to be out of class for 10 minutes so that I can go and pick up lunch or provide lunch so that they're eating together, that type of thing, so that I think, hope that is helpful for families that are sort of struggling to balance that, because I'm sure there's more that haven't reached out. So for our elementary group, the first 3 weeks, there's 491 K-6 students. Our numbers, our largest group right now, there's 2 groups that are 25. The rest of the groups fall under that. Some are in the teens. So the numbers are pretty reasonable at this stage of the game. We do have grade level teams that work very hard to create the schedules to balance things out, along with the specialists and other support personnel. The teachers have spent the better part of the first 2 weeks creating a positive classroom environment, getting to know kids, engaging in things. I know there's been a lot of pets that have been pulled onto the screen, so some of the teachers have met their furry friends, as well as gotten to know other folks within the family. We do have a lot of collaboration that's going on. Our grade level teams are working very hard, not just in the virtual academy, but also in the hybrid model, to ensure that there is consistent work that's happening in our curriculum. We're moving forward in our curriculum. Our next steps, as you see there, is to provide for some small breakout sessions, which Jen Judkins shared with our entire staff today, that Google has updated and is now available to us to do small breakout rooms. So we will be able to assign students into breakout rooms. And as a teacher, I could bounce from room to room and be able to touch base, just like we would do in the classroom. So that's going to be a positive thing. There's also an attendance taking feature that's there, and some other features that I do need to watch the video so I can learn more details myself. So I can update you during our subcommittee meeting and let you know all the details. For our 6th grade, it's a little bit different, and so you can see here, because they're not having just one teacher, they have teachers for their subjects, and you can see through the independent work and homeroom, and then flex time. The flex time allows for, say, an adjustment counselor to meet, specialists to meet with them, not specialists as in art, but like OT, PT, like anything along those lines. It gives the kids a little bit of a break. And provides for those types of services to be provided. And you can see through to the end. I don't know if you have any questions about the schedule, but we can go back to that. This is the 7th and 8th grade, and this is when Edgenuity comes into play. The middle school teachers are spending a great deal of time with their students in the classroom and supporting Edgenuity. There has been some concerns about the Edgenuity platform being challenging, but the teachers have been very helpful in working with the kids, and they do see them. It's different at the high school level, but at the middle school level, there's a lot of support, and there's a lot of other materials that are being discussed. It's not just Edgenuity. So, for example, one of our new hires, I'm going to get this wrong, but I believe he's our history teacher. He's either our history or math teacher, but I believe he's our history teacher, where he worked prior. He had some experience with Edgenuity, so there are parts of Edgenuity that he loves, and there's other parts that he wants to do his own instruction, and we've afforded him the opportunity to do that. And then at the high school, the students are working at their own pace. It's really following the Edgenuity program and platform in the manner it was supposed to be. We do have virtual academy teachers, as you can see, that are available for the same duration of time that teachers are available in the school day for high school students. The program itself does track where students may be falling behind, and teachers are made aware of that so that they can reach out. Teachers do send out assignments and can keep track of that. There are built-in quizzes and tests that need to be assigned by the teacher. It's not just automatic. So it goes through, you go through the lessons, and the lessons are created so that there are short videos. They may be 3 to 5 minutes long, and you need to stop and answer questions. And then you need to click to do the next one. And the program can track the amount of active time you have and the amount of idle time. So if you were to just click the video and walk away, it's going to know that like a half hour later, if the student expects the whole lesson to play out, it's not going to work that way because there's breaks in it. It's chunked so that they are checking for understanding. There's a lot of tools that are available to support students, note-taking, a glossary. They will transcribe the lesson so that if they want to read along with what the teacher is saying, they can do that. There's also a language feature that they can change the language, and there are multiple languages that it can be. The transcription gets changed. The actual written word on the page does not change, but you can follow along in your native language on the sidebar where it's transcribed. As it says here, the teachers have all set up Google Classrooms for communication, although that can also be done through the Edgenuity platform. And we have been working, as you are all aware, it took us some time to get in the queue and get this up and running for us. One of the things that we've been working on over the last week is getting access to parents to be able to go in and see this. And there's actually a meeting tomorrow morning to hopefully finalize that and get access codes out to parents so they can log on and start to see what their child sees. At this time, they can log in as their child and still see the information. There's not like separate information that's given to parents that students don't see. It's the same information. The students, as you can see on IEPs or EL students, are getting services Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from that afternoon time, and that's the same thing that's happening in the high school as it stands right now. And the guidance and adjustment counselors are providing the supports they need, so any college applications or any concerns that come along, they're there for that. I believe this was shared with all of you, and so these links are available. The first link is the student experience link, and that is what the students all saw prior to starting to use the platform. It shows them where all the different tabs are and how they can get in to the supports that they need, get back to the home button, find the courses that are assigned, see what the work is. If it's coded green, blue, I think it's blue, and red. So if you're green, you're ahead of the game. If you're blue, you're on target. And if you're red, you've fallen behind. And it'll tell you approximately how much time you need to put in to catch up, to get up to blue where you're supposed to be. I think it's blue. I don't know why I'm saying that. Then the lesson support demo, it's only, I don't know, maybe like 57 seconds long, but it shows you again where you can do note-taking, where you can get a glossary, where you can translate the transcribed version of the lesson. It also can read that to you, so there's an audio button you can push so it can be read aloud, and there's a lot of supports. The last four, the ELA, Science, Social Studies, and Algebra, are real short snippets of a lesson that's being taught, and so you can see the staff that's been videoed and using those lessons. And then the last piece is our parent-guardian expectations, and we really do encourage families to take advantage of the tech breaks. As I said, it's very tiring to constantly stare at a laptop and try to do that work, so to be able to take that time, and it's your choice what you do with it, but we encourage them to do that. Check in with your children, see what their assignments are every day or weekly. Ask what what went well for them, tell you what was a struggle, what they might do better tomorrow, those types of things, to be touch and base. Communicate, encourage students to be their own advocate. If you do need to reach out to a teacher, please do it through their emails. While it's very easy to lean over and talk during a class, it's distracting for children, so we really encourage folks to reach out, just like you would if your child were in school. You wouldn't walk into the building in the middle of the day and have a conversation with the teacher. You would reach out with a phone call or something, a note, and ask them to call when they have a free moment and touch base that way. So we encourage the same type of communication. Assist your child to access the resources, review tasks that might be challenging for them, and help them with the Google and Seesaw. There's a lot of supports that you can find on our website to do that. Monitor them, remind students to be respectful in class, just like you would expect. Understand that if your child struggles, it doesn't mean they're not going to get it. Struggle is a part of the learning process, and sometimes you have to make mistakes several times before it clicks. I think all of us have probably experienced that at some point in our lives. And so it is a natural way to learn, and we encourage to try. Don't try and answer the questions for them too quickly if you see them struggling. Obviously, we don't want anyone to the point of tears. Learning isn't about crying and being upset, but it is about a real honest struggle with the materials that are presented. So that type of thing, and if your child needs extra help, please reach out to the teacher. And that is the end of my
All right. Any questions for Ms. Sprague on VLA or Ingenuity? Mrs. Chisholm?
On the sixth grade, do they have a foreign language too?
So we're working on that. There's only about 25 students that expressed interest in it.
Okay.
I believe 4 of those were French and the remainder were Spanish. We have reached out to our internal staff to see if they would be able to teach another class, maybe during a prep time, or if they have a duty, if they can be exempt from the duty and take that class at that time. We're still working on it. It's something we're trying,
Okay.
but it's been hard to find staff
So they only have four subjects that they'll be graded on at the present time, or how will that work?
at the present time. They have specials as well.
Okay, but they won't have the language.
Right now, no.
Okay, so that's, and then I did notice that when I actually watched the little videos, when the student experience and that what they've done has been graded, but it also shows them that they have to finish the rest because that gets factored into their grade.
So, yeah, within Edgenuity.
Right.
However, the grade from Edgenuity does not automatically go into our report cards. The
Oh, okay.
teachers will still need to do that, and it's also possible that teachers can assign their own projects or their own work, which
Oh,
will
okay.
also impact the grade. So the grade that's shown as, like, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
That is shown there is strictly based on the work completed in Edgenuity.
Oh, okay.
But
I saw
it-
them like 87, then we're down like 56.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, because they were behind.
Right.
So the grading in the program is based on keeping pace
Okay.
as well as completing the work to the level that you need to. But that's something that the teachers will be grading and putting into our system. The two of them don't talk to each other.
Okay, great.
Ms. Chisholm? Dr. Wells?
Yeah, how are they communicating regular announcements that might be going on at the high school? You know, reminding people of SATs, PSATs, all this stuff to the virtual academy students?
My understanding is that Ms. Callanan is still pushing those reminders out to all of her students, because these students are still high school students. They're
Right.
still,
So it's by email?
or through the parent portal, so emails, yes.
Okay. Okay, and with regard to the students in terms of college applications, so they have assigned times where they can meet with the guidance counselor? Like, 'cause obviously, they can't just walk down the hall and see if you got it.
Right, those are being scheduled, so
Okay.
those, they get appointments for that, and they're able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Mr. Lipsett?
Just a few questions. So, just to follow up a little bit on what Ms. Chisholm was talking about in terms of pacing. My wife is actually teaching with Edgenuity. She's teaching remote, so she let me sort of peer over her shoulder a little bit. So my understanding is, in terms of students being behind, are we allowing students to move ahead to where a class is at this moment, or do they have to catch up with everything they missed before they get to where the class is? Because I know that option exists in Edgenuity in terms of the flexibility to sort of do the makeup work at your own pace while staying with the
Absolutely.
class. Okay.
Absolutely,
Because
yes.
that I know is something that
Sorry, I
she's
wasn't
run into.
understanding what you were saying at
Yeah.
first, but yeah, absolutely.
That's something that she's run into, so I just want
Mhm.
to see what.
Yep.
So,
Obviously, we encourage students to try and keep pace, because it's harder to make it up than it
Absolutely.
is to try and keep pace.
but certainly at a time where things might come up, we want to make sure.
Yep.
For grade, this is, I mean, in general, but also especially grade 6, as we're sort of hoping that students are taking a little bit more direct ownership of their education, advocating for themselves, are there opportunities for students to check in one-on-one with a teacher? Should they need extra help? I don't see it in the schedule. So I'm just
It's not in the schedule, like, written there, but there definitely are office hours that are available for them to do that.
Okay.
And the families have also been informed that they can reach out
Okay.
if there are any questions. I can say that last week, both elementary and middle school held their virtual back-to-school night, along with the rest of our schools, which is, it's kind of funny to say that. They were all virtual, but it's just a little odd. But I think people felt comfortable once they met the teachers and like saw them, and the teachers were able to speak to them and explain what their class expectations were, where they were going with the platform. There was a lot of positive feedback that Kevin Battle got last week from families.
Is that true of the elementary level as well? I mean, I know that that's not necessarily an area where students are going to be approaching teachers one-on-one, but do those opportunities exist, especially for older elementary students?
Yeah, because the students are, it's like a classroom. The students are live with the teacher.
But should there be a
Lots of
need
the
for
day.
like a one-on-one
Well,
discussion?
especially now with the breakout sessions, absolutely. But yes, the opportunity to email has definitely been encouraged.
Okay. So for parents who are trying to work their way through this, what kind of tech support's available for them? I've heard that Edgenuity tends to have fairly long tech support waiting times. So I'm wondering, I mean, is there a point person in the district that parents can contact, or?
So yes, if it's not a specific Edgenuity issue, if it's a tech issue and being able to access, then yes, the help at woburnps.com.
Okay.
They can reach out there and folks will get back in touch. I have to say, not being on the parent side of things, but being on the, obviously, the school side of things, Edgenuity's been very responsive to us.
Okay.
I have to say, whether it be email or phone calls and leaving messages, they've been really good about getting back to us. If someone's reached out and had a problem, I encourage them to shoot me an email
Okay.
and let me help them.
Okay, great, thank you. So I understand an email went out regarding substitutes for Virtual Academy today, that Virtual Academy classes, should a teacher be absent?
It's actually going to go out tomorrow.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. I think other people, parents are aware of it, because I've gotten some communications on it. But-
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, but I'll hold the question then.
If you want to ask the question, we can answer it.
Okay.
So
I think
that-
you should.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
Now it's
there's-
sounds like
A parent sent it to me, so I
Let's talk about substitutes in Virtual Academy.
Yeah.
Take it away.
So my understanding is that Virtual Academy will not get substitutes if the class, if the teacher is absent. I just wanted to see if you could walk us through the thinking there. Is it just a staffing issue, or are there other factors to take in?
So we don't currently have subs available for Virtual Academy. Obviously, the K to 6 is a little bit different than the 7 to 12. The K to 6, it's possible if there's a building-based sub that's available that they could be the sub for the day.
Okay.
However, the plan is that the teachers will, on a rotating basis, update their sub plans. It's not like they created them at the beginning of the school year and they're going to sit there. They need to be updated. It's part of our planning time that we want these folks to be updating those on a regular basis. So if someone is out for a day or two, that there's asynchronous lessons that will be in place.
Okay.
That being said, it doesn't mean that no person from the district will be in touch with them, because there are specialist time, and there's the possibility that any of the flex time could be an adjustment counselor lesson. There's several different staff over the course of a week that are in touch with students, so that could happen. If it's a problem that we know is going to be long-term, we definitely will be looking for coverage. It's not something, I mean, not knowing and not being able to predict the future, we're doing it.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I understand that, these are not easy problems to solve, and there's not a line of people waiting to substitute right now.
Yeah, and as Dr. Crowley said, we are looking for subs, and if we find them, then definitely we will put them there. It's not, we're not trying not to do it,
Right.
but it's just the availability is not there.
Thank you. I think that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lipset. Any more questions for Ms. Sprague? I just had two brief ones. Have we seen at all an increase in truancy for Virtual Academy students? Or has it been?
So there's been a couple that have been brought to my attention, and that we have the building principals following that. One of the things for Virtual Academy students is, while we look at it as a separate school, the students still belong to their home school.
Okay.
And so any of those concerns that are brought to my attention, the teachers are asked to reach out to the homeschool principal so that they can make contact with the family and address those concerns.
Okay. And then just the breakout rooms. That sounds very exciting,
Yeah.
because as we talked about, the remote side of hybrid is still fairly large classes. So could the breakout rooms be, helpful in that regard?
Absolutely. That is one of the conversations that I have had with Courtney Young about looking at how we can schedule. So there might be a larger 5 to 10 minute class that does the overall piece, but then students are asked to break out, and then the teacher can be in those groups to support students.
Okay. And is it possible to also differentiate instruction for certain learners
Absolutely.
based on
Absolutely.
pace of where they are in the curriculum?
Yes.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
those breakout rooms will help us to do that.
Yeah.
Much easier than having, even if it's a class of 15,
Right.
being able to break out groups to support in different ways, it's going to be much easier.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So parents should be looking forward to seeing that.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
Following up on your truancy question, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
In terms of how many students we have enrolled this year, do we have some numbers? Maybe next meeting, you could just give us some numbers, what we projected, what we have, things like that, how many.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that for you,
Yeah.
because we'll have, our October 1 Sims
Yeah.
report.
Okay.
so-
Yeah.
Okay, and then if we could go back and look at what our projected was, this is that report we got, so
Right.
I want to
Yeah.
start following that too. Okay, great,
Yes.
thank
Oh,
you.
Dr. Wells, you're talking about enrollment and
Yes.
the
Yes.
growth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you.
And
Okay.
whether we lost students, I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
one, we're getting all the students, nobody's lost, and that we don't have to look for, but also to see where we're going with our.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
Yep.
Okay, great. Let's move on. I lost my agenda. What's next?
Madam Chairman, just at this time, I wanted to take the time to thank everybody involved here. I've seen the letters, I've seen, what people are doing, and the tone of the letters really is amazing from the parents. They're understanding, and I think that's really good. I think everybody's understanding this is new, and, everybody's sort of dealing with it in, hate to say it, but an adult manner, in the sense that we understand not anything is perfect, so that's both at the staff level, understanding what the administration's trying to do, the parents trying to understand what the school system's doing, and the administrators just trying to keep everything together. So I just wanted to, note that's the view I see, talking to people in the community. I think everybody realizes this is a tough situation, and they're just trying to get things going.
I agree. The correspondence that we get is always, we deeply appreciate what the
Yeah.
administration has done. Here are my concerns, and it's
Yeah.
it's an absolute joy. You're right, Dr. Wells. Thank you. I guess we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Great. Finance Subcommittee, Mrs. Chisholm.
Yes, we met on October 8th at 4 o'clock here at the Joyce Conference Room. In attendance, Superintendent Dr. Crowley, Assistant Superintendents Bob Alcanato, and Mike Baldessari, Sped Director Maureen Ryan, Patty McKinnon, and School Committee members Dr. John Wells, Andrew Lipset, and myself. We reviewed the list of bills, found them all in order. Warrant 1 was for $356,647.37. Warrant 2 was $153,785.70. Warrant 3 was $51,988.79. Warrant 4, $432,863.70. And warrant 5 for $28,1840.
I'll make a motion to approve the list of bills.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? None. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes.
We reviewed balance of accounts and found those to be in order too.
I'll make a motion to approve the balance of accounts.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
All right, so questions that were highlighted and discussed, we talked at length about the SPED legal. It's increased, but mainly due to the changes that have occurred from this wonderful COVID virus, as well as the requirements and directions that are changing from DESE. The payoff in our lunch debt was talked about, that was due to the changes, but some of our students' status is changing from pay to reduced. And then Maureen Ryan did a great job presenting a budget graph to us, and you received those to us tonight, and they will be attached to my minutes, with actual expenditures, and spoke about preparing her budget for SPED. And she's trying to budget with comparisons to budgeted to our actual costs that we've had for prior years, and understanding that kids can come in at any time and increase our numbers and throw everything to the wind. She talked about the technology and therapeutic and instructional supplies that have increased due to the fact that kids can't share, so everybody has to have one of everything. Things are going home with kids as well as having to be in school. And the fact that kids can't separate things and sharing has increased all of these expenses. She has added projectors into some of the rooms so that when a story is being read, and unlike years before when kids could sit in a little circle and be all together, now at least they can see the book up on the screen. Preschool has an October 15th deadline, so that will give her a definite number of students in the early intervention that will be coming to us and joining school next year. So that's something that she's waiting to get that done. And then we talked about the lunch program and that it's going to be free for the entire year, so that's going to be awesome. So all our little kiddos can be fed. We spoke on busing that was talked about tonight, that no problems have been here, and that the North Suburban has the 19 cleaning machines, and they have been following the guidelines for cleaning the buses. And Maureen Raleigh also did state that North Reading Transportation has been very responsive and attentive to every detail, and they've done a great job with all of our students. We discussed the substitute line that we have, and it may be over. As of right now, it's paid out of the school reopening grant, but it will be a challenge once it's sent in December. But the superintendent, assistant superintendent, has been with the mayor, and he's fully aware of this, so there's no surprises, and we adjourned at 12:45.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Any questions for Mr. Chisholm on finance?
Point of information.
Yes.
One of the things we talked about was in the legal matters, was open cases, and we thought that might be something from Ms. Cormier's committee to track, is just number of open cases,
Yeah.
just so we could see how things are going. It might be an indicator that issues are arising that need to be addressed, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Cormier, would you be willing to make a data point of
I think the
open
administration will do it.
VSEA cases?
Right.
Yeah.
Provide-
Cases not named, or just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Yes. And just a reminder to the public, we like SSA to focus more on the well-being of students and more non-fiscal special education issues, and we like to have finance focus on the fiscal issues, so they're not combined.
Right.
And I think this has to do with student well-being.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
definitely, yes.
Yep.
But I just want
Yep.
public to be aware of that
Okay.
strict division. So I just have a question. Was Ms. Bryan sort of raising alarm bells about the budget, or just
No, just the
giving
fact that
information?
this,
Okay,
it could be, but right now she's, early intervention numbers is what's making her a little nervous, but.
Right.
I think it's an awareness,
Right.
Awareness.
Just to let us know. that
Okay.
this-
but clearly, we don't want to, we want the committee to see the numbers.
Yes.
And see the trend, so that no one is surprised.
yes,
And so.
She's amazing to detail.
yes. So we are deeply appreciative of that.
yeah.
So is Counselor Concanon. Okay. Moving on to curriculum and data trends, Mr. Lipsett.
We have not met, but we are hoping to do so reasonably soon to discuss all of the different things that have come up since we have.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming that all of these great programs have this great data that we can look at. Yes, fabulous. Okay. Personnel Subcommittee, Mr. Mulrennan.
Yes, Madam Chair, Personnel did meet on October 9th at 1 p.m. Present was myself, Ms. Chisholm, Colin Cormier, as well as Superintendent Crowley, Assistant Superintendent Bob Arcanaro, Judy O'Neill, Julie Cotton, and I think I covered everybody there. And first of all, I tried to write my notes as fast as Judy O'Neill was talking. So the chuckles in my room know that I practically are impossible to do that. But Judy did inform me that she would forward all her information, which she has hopefully in your packet this evening, regarding staffing issues. Not so much staffing issues, just staffing concerns and matters that Judy herself, her department is just handling. She also wanted to remind me that
Her Department of One.
her Department of One. But her Department of One is still working as a team with the rest of the administration, and I have in my notes here to make sure that I give a big shout out to Kerry Carpenter as well as Jean McLeod and all of the staff behind the scenes that made all of things happen, especially, as talked about tonight, and the superintendent said it himself, we basically had 3 openings in 3 different school systems. Now, figured that out as an HR director, so Judy handled all of that, not by herself. She kept telling me about the teamwork of many involved. Big shout out to Kerry. So I will start off, the main concern, people that took leave and how they did it. In our packets are a couple of different ways, going back to the initial directive from the mayor's office of how employees in the city were allowed leaves, and all these were documented through Judy's office. The numbers are in front of you on her charts. Just trying to read her notes. Like I said, the 40 staff were out, subs were hired, 40 subs, 9 extra nurses, 3 paras. I'm just trying to write my notes here. Building subs, as we talked about tonight, both virtually and regular building subs, all over the place. Next was emailing members about what she's gonna do, so that she forwarded that to me, which I forwarded to Jean to get to the members. Thank you very much. And again, as we all know, these things were happening under Judy's realm, cost money. Bob, your office indicated, and it's been mentioned a little bit tonight, we hope to get the money. We're up on the sub-line item, and if you want to chime in at the end of this, Bob, please do so. But again, the mention's already been made that the administrators, the finance folks here, as well as HR, are in communications with both the mayor and members of the city council and people in City Hall as to what we're doing with staffing, why we're doing it, to get, bodies in front of the students one way or the other. There has been a reallocation up in the staff from the central office to help things along. Virtual Academy, Judy did indicate to us that there's going to be extra money, hopefully using that as our reopening grant, and as well as a staff and stipend list you will provide with us shortly. City and school update. Again, I think the superintendent meets Friday morning, you said, Dr. Crowley?
Yes.
And that kind of keeps us in the loop with the city finance people as to what's maybe coming up or what we dealt with throughout the week. We have some applications all over the place for different pay rates. I don't know if Judy indicated that to us, but I can remind her of that. People that are filling in places are getting different pay rates all over the place for that as well from Judy's office. We asked about the assistant principal over at the Reeves, and Mr. Stanley's resume and paperwork has been distributed tonight to all members. And I give Bob an opportunity to chime in at all, Bob, and then our meeting adjourned at 1:30 that afternoon. Anything to add, Bob, or Colleen, or Patty?
Sure, Mr. Mulroney, and I can amplify your comments regarding the substitutes. That line item at this point, the 68 substitutes, has now crested over $1.6 million to pay them for however long they're going to be here. We are using the monies in the 102 fund grant, the school reopening grant, to offset that cost. That is, we can only use that money until December 31st of this year, and then that grant goes away. Then at that point, we have a $500,000 substitute line item in our budget that will be applied to the salaries after December 31st. And I keep indicating that substitute line item is also used for the occasional substitute that is required if a teacher is ill and we have to call in a substitute. So it's not a pristine $500,000. However, with building-based subs, if we have a teacher that doesn't have COVID, just has some other illness and is out for a day, we should be able to hopefully plug that building-based sub in. Dr. Crowley and I meet on a weekly basis with the mayor on Friday mornings. He is completely, and the city auditor as well, Mr. Doherty. They are completely aware of these figures, and we have showed them everything that we possibly can and being completely transparent. As Dr. Crowley has said, oftentimes it is expensive to open up in this format, but we certainly have done it. So I hope that answers your question, Ms. Moran, and that adds a little bit more information.
Just a little information on all of that. As well as, it's also been said again tonight, people receive word about what's going on. And I think if you just think about the personnel matters that the district had to put up with to get things to where they are today, and it's just not Judy. I think parents, Dr. Crowley, yourself came out and asked for kindness, patience, and understanding. And I think that's worked in our favor, that we now have these places and people in place where they should be, thanks to a lot of work from a lot of people. But again, can't say enough about Judy and her office there. She wanted to thank everybody behind the scenes that helped in her department to get things done. And she'll update us anytime we need anything at all. If you had questions on these little categories that she's provided tonight, she'll be happy to answer emails or anything concerning these matters. So,
Thank you. I think Dr.
Personnel,
Wells
Dr.
had a question.
Yeah, just looking at the list, administration is one permanent position that's open. I'm just trying to figure out what the administration's open.
Oh, you know what I
Yeah,
think?
the Jada
I think
Plano,
that's
the
the
reallocation.
the reallocation in Mr.
Yeah.
Alcanada's office. You want to
Yes.
speak to that, Bob?
Sure. As Dr. Crowley had said, there is a reallocation going on where someone from my office has been long planned to move into the sped department. And we are in the process of, we're posting, or we have posted to replace that position. It's not an increase in staff,
Right.
it's just a reallocation which has been long planned and have been budgeted for.
Okay. And then, so that gets to my second question. So the current open positions, how many of them are new positions we had to add? You know, some of them I'm sure are, some of them I'm not sure. Like the school, I'm wondering about the school psychologist. Is that, so we have one permanent school psychologist, that must be an open position that we've had and we're just filling. But then we're adding two school psychologists to the virtual academy we're looking for.
Hybrid. That's in the hybrid
It's
model
hybrid.
due to folks on leave.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like a temporary.
All right, see, I got confused because I saw 40 teachers were hired and 40 people were on
Yeah.
leave, and I
Oh,
just
sorry,
kind of
yeah.
made a one-to-one, but that's not the case.
Right.
Got it, okay. That makes sense. I think, okay. But a few of these positions must be new ones we had to add since the budget, like.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So for example, in the current open positions.
Yep,
Virtual Academy, one special ed teacher.
yep.
That's a new position.
Mhm. Okay.
What we tried to do, and it's very complicated, but we
Yeah.
tried to look to reduce, to use our own staff
Right.
first.
Yep,
And then hired only when we needed to.
okay. So maybe we could just get, when this all settles down, maybe we could just get,
Next
from,
July.
in finance, we could just get how many new staff we have. You know, I understand this, the building nurse, we hired a lot of substitute nurses, I heard about that. But just a rundown of all the positions we had to fill based on the
Absolutely.
situation.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, that'd be good.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Wells.
Permanent?
And if I may, Madam Chair, some of the other points that Judy brought up, the fact that, we see these open positions here, and, they're very hard to get these folks. As we heard earlier tonight, that, these people are applying elsewhere, they're getting snagged up and brought in, and, we're just trying to fill the spots as quick as we can. I think she just received word that day someone else was going to be leaving, so she was, kind of like looking through a drawer quickly to see who we had on that list before that person was taken up in another district. But it's something else to sit here and start thinking about what's going on in this amount of time. So
Along those same
Yes,
lines
Dr.
with the assistant principal, what kind of pool of applicants did we get for that?
Thank you for the question. So
Yeah,
Brian
sorry.
Stanley was hired as the assistant principal at the Reeves Elementary School. I think everyone has a copy of his resume. He actually applied, this position was opened back in the spring, around April. And Ms. Jolly's, the principal, conducted a search with the committee. And Mr. Stanley was the recommended candidate back before school even ended. Candidly, I sort of delayed the hiring because if we were going to open a remote model,
Yep.
I wasn't sure that the position would be necessary. Fortunately, he was always ready, willing, and able to come to Woburn, and he's been a great addition. He's already helped out. He's been teaching virtual academy.
Yes. He's a
Couple-
third grade
he's-
teacher for our first week.
He's a third grade teacher.
Okay.
He's worked downstairs in the tech department, labeling Chromebooks. In addition to be the new assistant principal at the Reeves. So far, returns are positive, and hopefully have him come in at some point.
So he was somebody that was vetted a long time ago, and
Yes.
this is, we're just getting to
Yeah,
hiring now.
yeah,
Got
we-
it, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. That's a
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
Any more questions on personnel issues? Seeing any, okay. Lauren, are you done? Okay, great.
all set. Thank you.
You're welcome. Resource utilization, Dr. Wells?
No, policy.
Policy.
I'm sorry.
She wants to get through the easy
Paul
ones
Fraser
first.
at the end, we're just gonna throw you out.
Policy and Safety Subcommittee, Mr. Kissel is going to present new New policies,
You
yes.
should have just received on the desk, but I know we sent it out earlier, so it's not new, but it says update the non-discrimination and harassment policy file AC. That's the new version, as you notice, it doesn't say adopted yet at the bottom, but it's going to do that tonight. So, I need a motion to take policy AC off the table, which has been over 30 days.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to pull that policy off the table? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, it's off the table.
Okay, I need a motion to approve AC as a new policy and to remove ACA, ACAA, ACAB, and JBA. I'm assuming we can do that all at once.
Yep. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Okay.
Great.
I thought you were going to ask.
I thought it was too.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, you'd asked for discussion, you might have.
Oh, would you like to make commentary on this?
Yeah, I had actually several questions.
I thought I was gonna get off easy.
It went by real fast. So, and I sent you an email with
Yeah.
a few questions earlier, but I just wanted to follow up on a couple things with this new policy, because I have some concerns, and I understand that this is following federal guidance, and this is what we have to do. But you know, there has been a great deal of discussion of some of the potential issues with the new federal guidelines. There is an ongoing lawsuit brought by several states' attorney general, including our own, over this. And so I just wanted to sort of get a sense from you about the impacts that you might see this having for especially our reporting on sexual harassment and sexual assault. But also issues of gender identity and gender expression, because I know that there have been some changes there as well.
Yep.
Mr. Lipset, are you speaking about the non-discrimination harassment policy or the Title IX?
Title IX.
Okay,
That's not the one.
Sorry.
we're-
It is.
we just did harassment,
Okay, never mind.
discrimination. Okay, great.
It's been a long day.
No, it's totally fine. They're similar. So the
So, yes.
policy called non-discrimination harassment has been passed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you didn't have any issues with that, Mr. Lipset?
Not to my, no.
Okay.
I think
Do you want to talk about this?
That's if.
Are we doing,
Okay.
making action
Well,
on that?
we need it, on the motion is off the motion, so we
Yeah.
gotta get a final approval.
We did.
We did.
Okay.
We passed the non-discrimination
That was
policy.
fine.
As well as the others.
Mr. Lipset just thought we were talking about a different policy, so
Gotcha.
now we're on Title IX.
Yeah.
So Title IX.
What say you?
Which unfortunately I could not make that conference
Yep.
seminar,
Yeah.
so I'll
Yeah.
defer to Dr. Baldessari for that.
So this policy here is replacing the non-discrimination in gender. It's replacing non-discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual harassment. This is our only harassment policy. And this policy really just delegates the responsibility to the superintendent to have procedures in place to cover all of it. In the last meeting, I distributed to all members language that will go into the student handbooks, the draft policy that you just accepted, Title IX grievance procedures, and discrimination that are non-Title IX grievance procedures for the district. So what basically happened is on August 14th, the federal government passed this new legislation that requires us to change the way that we investigate sexual harassment and discrimination. And that does not only affect Title IX, that also affects any allegation of discrimination, but also Title VII is impacted here. The procedures that we have, they adopt the preponderance of evidence clause. If you've ever watched, Law and Order, when somebody's found guilty, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest level, the highest threshold. Below that is what we used to have, which is clear and convincing evidence. So it's not quite beyond a reasonable doubt. It's clear and convincing. Now, below that is what these procedures will adopt, which is preponderance of the evidence, which means that if somebody appears to have better than a 50% chance to have committed an act, then they would be responsible for that. And certainly I turn to Ms. Crowley, make sure I'm saying this, saying this all right. In the in the legislation, we would have the option to have live hearings when there are sexual harassment allegations, but our procedures do not adopt that protocol because we do not want a student who is potentially the victim of sexual harassment or a sexual assault or rape to be in a hearing here where he or she is being cross-examined by counsel because of the tension, obviously, that could create for our students. There, in the protocols or in the procedures, you'll notice in the sexual harassment guidelines, previously, if there was a sexual harassment complaint, one person may investigate it, and that person may actually also be the person that hands out the discipline or applies, some type of mediation to what's going on. That's not the case anymore. We now have Title IX coordinators, myself and Judy O'Neill. We have people who are designated as investigators who then report to other people or another person who is a decision maker. The process has an appeal officer and an informal resolution facilitator. And in this continuum, all of these people are different people. So it's a much more thorough process. And, obviously, Mr. Lipset, with a process that's this thorough comes the potential time-consuming aspect of it, the kind of like the bureaucratic red tape. Whereas if we have procedural errors in this, what that could mean as far as responsibility for ourselves in litigation that could come against the district for not following our procedures or our protocols appropriately. The civil rights procedures that we have are for the situations that are not covered in Title IX. So what could actually happen is someone could make an allegation of sexual harassment, either employee to employee or employee to student or student to student, that doesn't reach the threshold for Title IX, but may reach the threshold in our other procedures for, for harassment or retaliation. So that even makes the process that we have to go through to ensure that the steps are followed even longer. There's a lot of discussion about, who can report. It can be reported by a parent. It can be reported by a student. It can be reported by the staff members in the district are required to report any allegation, anything that they see that could potentially be harassment or sexual harassment. But reports can also come in anonymously. They won't be formal reports. But sometimes when anonymous reports come in, we will still have the responsibility to investigate. And sometimes an anonymous report can still result in contacting DCF and the police and all of those other things, because it's obviously to keep our staff and our students safe. When we talk about where the harassment takes place or the sexual harassment takes place, if it takes place on a field trip, we're responsible. If it takes place in school but on a cell phone, we're responsible. If it takes place at home but on a school-issued laptop, the wording that's used is anything over which we have substantial control. Now, if the harassment takes place on a Saturday night at a party that's not on school grounds, obviously, we would be able to say, no, that's not something that is, we are the body that is, who is to investigate. But with these new protocols and procedures will come lots of communications with counsel when the complaints come in, so that we can make sure that we're proceeding appropriately and we're doing the right thing for our kids, but also keeping our districts safe from any allegations of not following our own protocols.
Okay, so this is a policy that's off the.
Oh, yeah, I was
Yep.
going to add, you mentioned.
Then this, the document that I had passed out, this is from the workshop that was attended by 26 of the administrators and leaders in the district, and we also had some school committee representation there. This was conducted by Mike Joyce on October 7th. The training was 3 hours in duration. With your adoption of that policy tonight, tomorrow, these training materials will be posted on our website, because that is another piece of the compliance that we have to do. And you'll notice, starting tomorrow, that when you get emails from the district, if you're on an external email, you'll notice on the bottom that it says the Woburn Public Schools does not discriminate on the basis of, and all the language that's in the policy that you just voted. It's already present on our websites. It'll be present in all of our publications that go out to the public, and that is our responsibility to do that.
So at the present time, and I'm assuming
Yeah.
when the adoption happens, I believe it was the athletic director, Jim Duran, was
Yes.
Previous.
Right.
still is at this
No.
point.
No.
No, but then.
Yeah, Jim Duran is no longer, when you voted that policy tonight,
Yeah.
the policy that named Mr. Duran, the grievance.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So as of
Right.
like minutes ago, okay. So, and I read how many levels there are.
Yeah.
There was a parentheses on one of the items, investigators maybe or
Yep.
something like that. So obviously, how many people are we talking?
So, in the Title IX booklet that I handed you, if you take a look on pages 12 and 13, you'll notice the two coordinators of myself and Miss O'Neill. You'll notice the investigators. There are 6 investigators named. On the decision makers, the principals are the decision makers, so you'll see 10. Appeals officers are Dr. Crowley, Ms. Sprague, and Mr. El Canada. And then if there's an informal resolution that's going to be done, if Judy's the Title IX coordinator that handles the case, I would be the informal resolution facilitator, and vice versa. It is possible that the Title IX coordinator can appoint a different person other than who is in here to be an investigator, depending on where the complaint, is located, when it took place, who's involved. Sometimes we don't want, family members investigating one another, or there's just a lot of different scenarios that can come up.
And that's my second question.
Yeah.
If any of those levels, that person was involved somehow,
Yeah.
they would obviously recuse themselves, and somebody else would take the position, or just work with the 5 investigators?
So it would be, the only one investigator would be assigned.
Okay.
And throughout the process, we will be called upon to make very wise decisions in selecting those people, depending on all the circumstances of the case.
Okay.
Any questions on this? And Mr. Lipset, did you want to?
Yeah, so I just have
Yes.
a couple of additional questions. So, talking about where harassment is taking place, it may not be our responsibility to investigate any particular issues. Does this policy change affect in any way a school's response if such harassment or assault has taken place off school grounds and outside of school responsibility, but between students who may come into contact during the school day?
Yeah, and so the answer to that is it depends. If it takes place using a school computer, if it takes place during a virtual, meeting of students, like let's say the students were meeting on Google Meet at 9 p.m. for a study group. Even though they're in their homes on their own networks, because they're in our study group and we have substantial control, then it would be our investigation. But if that harassment takes place in that living room over which we have no substantial control, there's no school devices being used, then we would not be the ones to investigate.
That I understand. My question is more in terms of the in-school process that happens
Yep.
if there is an assault. Even if that happens without any school responsibility to
Yep.
investigate, does this affect our ability to respond in terms of, so let's say you have 2 students who share a class,
Yeah.
where there is an allegation of assault. Can the school still take action to make sure that students are separated?
Yeah, we could do that as part of that's part of our bullying and harassment plan. We could put a safety plan in place for any 2 students at any time. It's interesting, when we were in the training and we were talking about, if a restraining order is issued, it's actually issued between the parties by the court.
Right.
And we aren't really responsible in some cases because it's issued by the court for 2 people that they're responsible of. And we might not even be able to guarantee that these kids are separated in school. However, as part of our own anti-bullying plan that we have, we may institute a safety plan in which students have escorts. Students are not in the same classes together. they're on different floors. We've been very creative over the years in finding solutions for situations such as that.
Okay. And so, you talked about a little bit about people who are responsible for investigation.
Yeah.
So, in terms of initiating complaints, I understand there have been some questions about the policy change concerning who can initiate an investigation.
Yeah.
My understanding is that is still restricted to the complainant, a parent, or the Title IX officers themselves, but
Yep.
no other person.
No, a teacher, any staff member in the school who witnesses anything.
They can bring a complaint. They
Yeah.
cannot necessarily begin a formal complaint.
See, that's one of those nuanced questions where I would either, something might come to me, and what I would have to do is I would have to look deep, into the language or make a call, But my understanding is that a complaint can be filed by any staff member, any parent, any student, and also we can act on complaints that are made anonymously, but the anonymous is not formal.
Oh.
That's my understanding of it right now, but I can get further information for you.
I'm coming into contact with things that are somewhat
Yeah.
secondhand
Yeah.
reflection. So, you've done the like.
Oh, there's a lot, and there's a lot that goes, there's a lot of words in here. You know what I mean? And as with anything like complex that we do in the schools that are, budgetary and matters, legal, construction, right? For us, what happens is we get into the process, and then 2 or 3 years later, we're really good at it. And that's just the way it works. So
they change it.
when these things happen, we're going to have to be doing some learning.
They get paid by the word. Most things get paid by the word.
And I appreciate all of it.
Yeah.
I've seen how this can play out in a school setting,
Yeah.
and I just want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can under the current guidelines to protect every kid in our building.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Chisholm. Because one of the things that would concern me is so even though students, but parents to be aware, now that we're giving each student, or trying to give each student a Chromebook to be home, when they're on that is held to.
Yeah.
So maybe that should be something that gets sent home to people just to alert them that, even though you're not in school Monday through Friday, you're doing something on Saturday, if that's our computer, this
That
is
we
gonna
still,
like.
it still involves us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Chisholm,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Any more questions, preliminary questions on Title IX? It's a huge change, and it basically makes it more fair for the perpetrator, alleged perpetrator. That's the summation of this policy. Anyone have any further? No, okay. Do you want a motion, Mr. Kissel, to accept this? Is
I
this,
think it's done.
So we're
it's done?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So,
I knew I didn't make
Yeah.
it.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Kissel, when you made your motion, you stated this as part of the motions that were, the
No,
policies that
the
were coming off the
policy was the
table.
only thing we voted on.
Right.
What he presented was just some information about training that they
Gotcha.
had, and that's, administrative stuff.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Kissel, for your work on that. Moving on to
Resource.
Resource.
utilization.
We did not meet, Madam Chairman.
Okay, great, thank you. Student Services and Achievement, Ms. Cormier.
Yes, thank you. We met on Tuesday, October 6th, here at the Joyce. In attendance was myself, Mr. Kissel, Mr. Mulrennan, Ms. Crowley, Maureen Ryan, Dr. Baldessari, and Julie Cotton of the CPAC. For a SPED update, as always, it's been very busy. Ms. Ryan was excited to see the kids in the classrooms, and it just reinforced how important it is to have them in the classroom. Even if things do change going forward, having this time is important with the kids interacting with staff and peers and being engaged. Still some movement as far as staffing, which we also discussed as part of personnel. Struggling to fill paras, significant learning curve, and there are a couple more positions that she still needs. As far as movement, they're sort of a balance between the numbers, the cohorts, the ages, so any change from virtual to hybrid is going to require some juggling on their part. There are some concerns from parents regarding consistency in scheduling, which of course is hard if they're moving kids around. They've been supporting teachers in the virtual academy to deliver appropriate models, as Ms. Chisholm did mention the projectors, Ms. Ryan did say, that this is something that actually has been really helpful as part of this, that we've been forced to take this in because of the changes, but it's also new ways to teach children that we didn't have previously, so now we're adding that to sort of our repertoire. Transportation has been going okay. SSA, Dr. Baldessari spoke of the closing the achievement gap, $30,000 grant for weekends, summer vacation, and each principal has 63 hours to provide students who were behind previous to the closure. There was an update to the supervisor of attendance job description to meet more of the digital time that we're in. So that was submitted. The supervised learning centers, of course, we did already hear about this. The Department of Ed Associate Commissioner is coming to visit. That hasn't happened yet.
I think the date right now is October 22nd.
And Lieutenant Governor Polito was invited by the mayor to visit. The teachers are saying that some kids are learning better without the distractions of home while they're in the supervised learning centers. I actually went to the Boys and Girls Club today. Amazing. They did, I know Dr. Baldessari had mentioned before the problem that they had with the extension cords. So apparently Marshall White came in and his guys ran all these extension cords out from the ceiling. So it was a smaller day, but they've got everything color-coded bathrooms, and Julie Gage gave me a tour, and it was awesome.
Thank you to Mr. White.
Yes.
That's tremendous. Thank you.
For social emotional learning, we're doing 1 lesson per grade per month remotely. One-to-one counseling is happening, though not during the school day if possible. They're using telehealth. And the adjustment counselors are presenting signs of suicide in the classroom. For English language learners, intake language assessments are being done virtually. We're communicating, working to get all the daily communications, especially to families in all languages. Erin Cooper is updating the handbook. EL parent classes will be virtual, and they were still planning that. And after-school remote sessions from the Title III grant. Family and community engagement, we still have some remaining gift cards for Market Basket. Adriana has helped 40 families with SNAP applications. They've reactivated the family needs tracker for the principals to communicate with Adriana as far as the needs of the community. There's going to be parent training on digital tools for not only our EL parents, but also other parents, and we'll do that one at a time per language. And we received a small but significant $1,000 DTA grant towards Adriana's salary. CPAC has upcoming meetings on October 20th at 6:30, which happens to also be the LPAC meeting, so write both of those down, and November 17th at 6:30. They're looking to discuss with Woburn Public Library some community access inclusion concerns, and they will be having the basic rights workshop. We adjourned at 10:05 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Cormier. Any questions from Ms. Cormier and SSA? Seeing none. Great. Okay, future agenda items. I will work on the logistics around the student rep. We will provide, the administration will provide you with a list of new positions that had to be hired because of the hybrid.
We can do that through finance if you want, Madam Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Wells. Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Anything else for future agenda items? Okay, it's all right. You can just email me if you want something on the agenda. Thank you all. Correspondence. I forwarded you an email from Miss Bridget Meyer. It says Wicks on the email, but her last name is Myers. She raised some concerns about the hybrid program. The administration also received the email, and I'm sure they'll be addressing her concerns. Jennifer Ness told me that she was going to, she thought we had a Zoom meeting and she was going to come and speak to the school committee. Then she said she was going to send me an email. I did not receive it as of now, but it was concerns about edgenuity, which hopefully Ms. Sprague addressed tonight. And those are the only correspondence I received, I believe. So,
Madam Chair, make a motion, we put those into the permanent record, please.
yes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that motion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, those emails will be part of the public record. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Yep.